Welcome to Azur Lane Meta. Due to popular request, today we are going to be going over how to best farm PR2 ships. Welcome back, guys. So, like I said, I've been seeing this question a lot of how I'm going to farm PR2 ships. So today we're going to look at how you have to get PR2 ships and what are some of the ways that you can obtain those requirements quickly. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be assuming that this is for a high-end player, so we're going to assume that you can get to chapter 12. A lot of the advice in the video is going to be around chapter 12 because chapter 12 gives you the most experience, and there is where you can get these ships the fastest. If you can't get to chapter 12, typically the hardest level or the highest level that you can go to is going to give you the most experience, but you might not have such an emphasis on AA like chapter 12. If you can get to chapter 11, you'll get most of the same fleets and most of the same numbers as chapter 12. If it's less than that, it'll be less and your tactics are a little bit different. So maybe not go with the exact fleets that I'm giving here. And this will all kind of be explained why in a different video I have planned called experience gaining. But for today, we're focusing on chapter 12. So just remember that and keep it short. You'll get the most experience from doing 12.4, but 12.2 you'll get most of the experience and it's a little bit easier. So if your ships are not fully leveled up and you're having trouble clearing 12.4 on auto, then you can go to 12.2 and get pretty much most of the same benefits. And last thing before we begin, one of the things that people have asked me also is what order that I'm doing them in. If you guys care, the order I'm doing them in is probably going to be Friedrich, Zuma, Gascony, Casa, and then Georgia, Seattle. And the reason for that is Friedrich is just amazing. Zuma is going to be very good. I don't think she's going to be tier 0 like some people say for PvP, so that's why she goes second. But there is an event, so if you want to grind her faster, the second 2.4 million experience of her, the last 2/3 of her experience, you can get a boost if you use some of the cruisers that are getting boosts in those events. So if you want to speed it up, you could do a Zuma first. Then after that, you're going to go with whatever ship you're missing. So if you're missing Sandy Kai, you go Seattle. If you're missing Laffy, which everyone has access to Laffy, you could go Kitakaze. Or if you just want a Laffy that's boosted by Nagato. And then if you're missing like Warspite Kai, you can go Georgia. I have all those, so getting those 3 PR ships, while as helpful, is not going to be a significant increase right away to my fleet. And I think, for me at least, Gascony has an interesting mechanic. So that's why she's third, and then the other 3 are kind of all up there. I probably will go back to some of the PR1 ships that I haven't finished too. So just that's my order. You can do them in any order you want. Order doesn't really matter. Do the ship that you like the most, whichever you can bear the grind for the most. So without further ado, we will start now. So we're going to start with Seattle, and to get Seattle you need 760 Eagle Union Tech points, one of the lower trees for the PR2 season. You need 3 million experience with Eagle Union Vanguard ships. 3 million experience is the lower end, or what is typical for the PR, the priority rare ships. You need to complete 3 research projects, 10 elite cruiser blueprints, 5 super rare cruiser blueprints, 20,000 coins, and 5 wisdom cubes. So overall, she's going to be probably the cheapest to complete. Once you get her, if you want to get her to max level, you're going to need 343 strengthening units to fully limit break her. There is no fate simulation yet here for PR2. You're going to need about the 17 books for each skill that you need to get to level 10, and then to get to level 120 you're going to need about 4.3 million experience points. So this is the fleet that we are going to be running for Seattle. Note, it is a mob fleet, so most of the experience that you're going to get are from mob fleets. So we are going to build mob fleets here because about 82% of the experience that you can get from a Chapter 12 sortie is going to be from just the mob fleet. So if you just have a mob fleet and you run that, that's fine. Boss fleets are fine. You can build boss fleet and a mob fleet, getting experience from both. But because a lot of the players that have the ships and the access to ships that can do that on 12.4 already know how to build their fleets, we're going to stick primarily to the mob fleet because that's where most of the experience comes from. So for Seattle, actually it should be pretty easy because Eagle Union tend to have the highest AA stats, and we need those AA stats for Chapter 12. We're going to start with Portland as our tank, San Diego as our anti-air and also major damage dealer, and then Cleveland, who has decent AA and also a debuff. Then we're going to be playing Alabama. She has an absurd AA stat, and she also gets boosts as you defeat more enemies. So she is great for mob fleet, where she'll be taking out more enemies. Some alternatives, if you missed Alabama in her event, would be Washington or North Carolina. They are also event exclusive ships and from an old event, so if you don't have them, you could get Warspite. But however, she's not very effective if you don't have her retrofit, which is event exclusive. And if you don't have that, you could use something like a South Dakota, which everyone can pick up from the exercise shop. If you're having trouble because of underleveling with ships dying, you can add Unicorn if your Vanguard's dying, or Akashi if your main fleet's dying, or both to optimize the fleet. Obviously, we want to have as little of oil as possible, so in Seattle we can run 46 oil per run. This will mean that we need to clear 822 mob battles. This is with all optimistic outlooks, like the fact that a Vanguard ship will get MVP and that you won't hit any ambushes. But if we do all that, the minimum amount of oil that you'll need to completely obtain Seattle would be about 39,000 oil. Next up is Key to Casa, which needs Sakura Empire ships, 780 fleet tech points. You need Sakura Empire Vanguard ships to earn her EXP. The resources that she needs to unlock her are pretty much on par with Seattle, and same with the ability to get her to level 120 maxed out. For Kitakaze's mob fleet, her main ships, or the main fleet ships, are pretty much going to be identical to Seattle. The only difference is now you can add some of the Japanese ships like Nagato to give the boost to the front line, or Amagi because she does get her quick barrage. For the Vanguard fleet, we're going to be focusing around Yubari because she will give a 15% experience boost at max level to our other cruisers, and that will help us finish a little bit quicker. Also, she gets a retrofit coming soon, which helps with her stats and also gives her a neat new skill. We're going to pair her with Jinsu, which is probably the best cruiser torpedo for torpedoes in the IJN fleet, because we don't really have any AA stats in IGN, so we're just going to be focusing on getting damage fast and hopefully clearing before we get killed. Jinsu's probably the best cruiser for that. Now, there is the new announced cruiser that we don't know the stats or skills for, so maybe that'll be helpful in the event that drops next week, but for now it's going to be Jinsu retrofit. Then we add Mogami, which I think is probably the best ship with the retrofit for this. However, we have some other cheaper options if you want to run the fleet a little bit cheaper. Naka and Isuzu both are rare ships, cruisers that give boost. Naka gives torpedo boost, and then the Isuzu gives an AA boost, which is already pretty low, but it's there if you have them. Don't level them up for this purpose if you don't have them. So the fleet I have here currently costs about 44 oil per run. If you are able to switch into one of those rare ships, you could get down to as low as 715 mob battles in optimal conditions. Mind you, that one of the front ships is going to get the MVP is not too realistic, and that's going to be about 30 some thousand oil that you're going to be spending, so a little bit cheaper than Seattle. Next up, we have a Zuma, the first decisive rare ship we have on this list. She's also a new type of ship called a large cruiser. Effectively, it's like putting a battle cruiser in the Vanguard fleet. She needs 900 Sakura Empire tech points, which can be a stretch for some new players. She then needs 1.2 million experience with Sakura Empire main fleet ships, and then an additional 2.4 million experience with the Vanguard ships. She needs 20 research projects to be completed, 11 super rare battleship blueprints, 50,000 coins, 10 wisdom cubes, and then she is yours. But then you have to level her up to be useful. She needs 513 strengthening units to get to max limit break. Then for the skills, she's gonna need about 17 books for each skill, of course. And then she needs almost 5.2 million experience to get all the way up to level 120, higher than any other ship, tied with FTG. So let's take a look at how to build her mob fleet. If you're doing the first 1.2 million, this is what we're going to be doing. If the second 2.4 million is just the same fleet you're going to use for Casa, you can use for the second 2.4 million. So refer back to that slide if you need it. If you need to do the first 1.2 million, which requires main fleet ships, this is what we're going to run. We are going to focus on using Haoshao experienced carriers. So we use Shoho because she is a Japanese carrier for the experience. She also heals the Vanguard. And then I think Taiho is the best option here. She's just really bulky and she's got some defensive skill, so it'll make your life a lot easier. However, there is a cheaper alternative. However, light carriers just seem to be they don't take a lot of damage, and so they die really fast. So I prefer Taiho here. For the Vanguard, ideally we're going to have only one ship because we want to decrease the oil. If you want to be the cheapest, you can go with Portland. If you want a little bit more speed, San Diego will clear just a bit faster. And obviously, if you're having trouble with clearing it because being under leveled or something like that, you can add both of them. And as a third option, we could always add something like Phoenix. So in order to finish her, we need to do about 812 mob battles. For the min oil, that would be if we're running Portland, and if we're running the min oil as well on the Kitakaze fleet, it's going to be about 35,000 oil, so not too bad. So now we're making our way into the main fleet ships. We'll start with Gascony. It needs 760 Eagle Union tech points and 420 Iron Blood tech points. Actually, because it's split, it shouldn't be too bad. Maybe the Iron Blood could be difficult if you missed the events. You only need 3 million experience with main fleet ships, so this should make it pretty quick. However, we're pretty much going to be running Iron Blood, as the two French factions don't really have too many main fleet ships except Jean Bart. And then the complete research projects all pretty much set up for what our priority ships are for PR2. Obviously, there's more coins involved for the main fleet ships. 343 strengthening units as typical of a priority ship. The skills I need the 17 books per skill, and she's at the 4.3 experience needed as well. So like I said, for our mob fleet, we're going to be running basically a German fleet. For the main fleet, we're going to be running Bismarck and Graf. We also picked Zeppi because Zeppi is less oil than a Tirpitz. We could also run Jean Bart if we wanted to, but Jean Bart doesn't get the Bismarck boost, but is a very powerful ship nonetheless. So if you have her, you can run her. In the main fleet, we're pretty much just running the same single ship that we were running in any of the ships that need main fleet experience. Alternatives, we could run Rune or Prince Eugen because we are having Bismarck. However, their lower A stats do make them less ideal in my opinion. She needs about 704 mob battles, and that would give about 36,000 oil needed in optimal conditions to complete her. Next up, we have USS Georgia. She needs 810 Eagle Union tech points to start. She needs 3 million experience with Eagle Union main fleet ships. The rest of her requirements are the same as other priority backline ships, and to get her to level 120 is the same as it would be any backline priority ship. For her mob fleet for 12.4, our Vanguard is going to look similar to all of our other Vanguards, either Portland or San Diego, add ships as needed. For the backline, we're going to be focusing around Langley, who is a USS carrier that will boost our experience. We're going to put Saratoga in order to kind of add some extra damage, and Essex, which she does really well with AA kind of capabilities with her fighters. If you don't have Essex, you can use something like an Enterprise that increases damage. So we'll be running at about 44 oil per run, and that is not actually too expensive. And when you combine in the fact that she doesn't need the decisive rare requirements and she has the flagship bonus available to her, she only needs 613 mob battles in the most ideal conditions, which make her under 30,000 oil possible to get her completely done and make her the cheapest of PR2 in terms of oil. Last but not least is Friedrich der Grosse. She needs 630 Iron Blood tech points, which can be a lot if you did not do the event. She needs 3.6 million experience points. With Iron Blood main fleet ships, at least we have the flagship bonus available to us. And just like Zuma, she's going to need 20 research projects, 11 super rare battleship blueprints. She does need 60,000 coins, which is a little bit more, and then 10 wisdom cubes. And she does going to need those 513 strengthening units before you can max limit break her, which is a lot. And then we're going to be looking at almost 17. She needs a lot of books as well, red books and yellow books, the ones that are usually harder to come across, to max out all of her levels. And she is also going to need over 5 million experience points to get her to level 120. She is a very strong battleship, and she's going to need a lot of work to get towards her. So for her mob fleet, it's not too exciting. It's going to be the same fleet they use for Gasconnet, except if you were using Jean Bart, you obviously don't use her. And so not too exciting. 50 oil per run, which is pretty high. And then keep in the fact that she does not get any of the skill boosts, and she needs more experience than any other ship. Basically, she's going to need about 845 mob battles, or that's the minimum actually. You're probably going to need more of that than that, and that is 43,000 oil if you are in ideal situations where you don't get ambushed and everything works to perfection and you S rank everything. So she is going to eat up a lot of your oil if you're going to get her. So good luck, commanders. So if any of you were curious how I got those numbers for how much clears would be needed and how much oil would be spent, we'll just take a look at the spreadsheet I used. The 845 is the base experience you'll gain from a 2-star mission. If you also equally weight the 1, 2, and 3 stars, you'll get to 845 as well. If you're taking out more 3 stars, you'll get more. We're assuming the 3 ships are all getting experience. For the ships that need main fleet ships, we're assuming the flagship comes into play. Just note that you only get the flagship bonus for 1 ship. A lot of people times the whole thing by 1.5, so that would be incorrect because that would be like giving the flagship bonus to all 3. Then we have the morale bonus. So if you don't have 100 and I think 20 morale, you don't get this morale bonus. Note that if you are grinding a lot in a short period of time, you probably won't have this bonus. Make sure to put them in the 2nd floor of the dorm if you want to kind of keep this bonus for longer. Note that probably every battle will not have this bonus, so that's optimistic. S rank. If you get an S rank, you get a 20% bonus. Not everything is S ranked. If you have any of your ships die, it won't be S ranked, so just keep that in mind. Skills are 15% for the ones that are applicable. We're assuming that you have 6 battles before the boss appears, so just keep that in mind. If you do more or less, that's there. And we're not counting the boss battle, which has actually a higher average and makes up about 18% of your EXP from a sortie on 12.4. The clears, we obviously need 3 million XP. The Zuma and Friedrich do have 3.6 million, don't worry. and then we're assuming that you do 6, and then those are minimum oil costs. If you were to plug in whatever your oil costs are, it will tell you your total oil, and it does take into consideration that you do have to pay 10 oil to enter the sortie, so it doesn't take that into consideration, just in case some of you were curious about how the math worked. If you guys have any more questions about how the math worked, or about the fleet compositions, or about the equipments, I know I didn't really talk about equipments too much because this video is getting long, so if you have any questions about that, drop them in the comments and I'm usually pretty good about answering them. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope it's helpful to you. If you liked the video, please like the video. And if you want to hear more videos in the future, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.